You don't need $1 million or 100 acres to start a homestead. You just need to know where to look and what to look out for. When we were first getting started, I spent way too many evenings scrolling listings that made it, well, impossible. Everything looked overpriced, overgrown, or over my head. But affordable land is still out there if you're willing to do the digging and stop looking where everybody else does. Today, I'll share with you how to find your own patch of paradise without going broke in the process. Before you ever start searching for land, get clear in your head and maybe even on paper what you actually need. Ask yourself 3 honest questions. How far am I willing to drive for supplies or work? In my case, we had to move further out, and it took 1 hour and 15 minutes for me to drive to work one way every day. Made for some really, really long days. The next thing is how much ground and what kind of ground actually fits your goals. Pasture, timber, garden soil, whatever. And the last question, how much land can you realistically maintain? That last one's a big one. A well-used acre beats 10 acres of frustration every time. Our first property was 1 acre, mostly woods. It wasn't big, but it taught us how to manage time, soil, fencing, critters on a really small scale, but nonetheless. And when we finally moved to someplace bigger, that experience saved us a lot of time, money, and screw-ups. So before you buy your land, get your expectations grounded in reality. Here's the truth. The best deals almost never show up online. If you're serious about finding affordable property, you gotta go where fewer people are looking. Start with county tax auctions. Every county has properties that revert back to them because of unpaid taxes. In Tennessee, those are usually listed on the county trustee's website or in legal notice sections of your local paper. They're not always pretty, but sometimes you'll find 5 acres or so the cost of a small pickup truck. Look, here's a pro tip if you're going to go that direction. Walk it first if you can.
Where you going?
And check if the previous owner still has redemption rights. Some counties give them a year or so to buy it back.
Right.
Next, check state surplus and land commission sales. Most states have a department that sells unused or abandoned tracts of land. Search your state's surplus property or real estate asset management pages. Here in Tennessee, it's called STREAM, State of Tennessee Real Estate Asset Management. Those often come with clear titles, and bidding competition is usually pretty low. And don't forget online and local auction websites like govdeals.com or publicsurplus.com, and even LandWatch and Land and Farm sometimes list overlooked rural properties. The trick is, though, to sort by the oldest listings first. Those sellers are often ready to deal. And this is how we found our place. Common word of mouth. And don't underestimate this. Put a note up at your local feed store, talk to the county extension agent, or mention your interest at church or at a farmer's market. You'd be surprised how many older landowners would rather sell a few acres privately. When we found this place, we just had a simple conversation with someone who happened to know somebody selling land. Sometimes the best opportunities, well, never make it online. That's how a lot of small homesteaders still find land the old-fashioned way. They work for it. Watch out for red flags and hidden costs. This is where good deals can turn south and turn into very, very expensive lessons. Before you buy, always check zoning and building codes. Can you live full-time on the property? Can you raise livestock? Can you put up a barn or even use solar? Some rural residential zones still have restrictions that can ruin all your plans. Check your access rights. If the property doesn't have a legal road easement, it's called landlocked. You can't legally cross a neighbor's property without written access rights, no matter what they tell you. Check your utilities and your water. Here in West Tennessee, running power can cost as much as $10 to $20 a foot, depending on the distance. And drilling a well, can cost as much as $6,000 to $12,000, depending on the depth and the soil type. And if you need a septic system, don't skip the perk test. Before you buy, you might end up with, well, land you can't even build on. Let's talk financing. Some banks won't lend on bare land, or they'll want 30 to 50% down. Check your local credit unions, your farm credit, and check into owner financing options. Most of those folks are usually a little more flexible and understand rural property. Stay away from city bankers. You'll get nothing but trouble. The goal is to spend money once, not fix someone else's mistakes later. And think long-term and local. When you find a piece of property that looks promising, picture it 10 years from now. Will the soil still grow what you want? Can your family handle the upkeep? How's the water, the shade, the road access? Good land doesn't always mean big land. A single spring-fed acre can be worth more than 10 dry ones. And don't overlook the community. Talk to people at the local co-op or feed mill. They'll tell you right away whether that area becomes a headache or you'll be welcomed into the community. Good neighbors are worth a lot more than cheap land. When we bought this property, it was landlocked. There was no direct access to anywhere. We put in an 1/8 of a mile driveway eventually, but we had to get permission from our neighbor, who lives obviously next door, which is a long way from here, by the way, for us to put our driveway in so that we could use a public easement and a small part of his property just so we could get back here. He didn't have a problem with it. He signed the papers that were necessary, but it had to go through lawyers and all this other stuff at closing before we could do anything. So keep in mind, always, always, always check the details before you start putting any real money down. Finding land isn't about luck. It's about patience, research, and understanding what you're really looking for. Because when you finally find that right piece of ground, even if it's small, that's when your dream starts to feel very real. In the next video, we'll move past finding the land and talk about what comes after: water, power, shelter, the 3 essentials that make your property livable from day one. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications. And as always, from all of us here at Possum Ridge Farms, until next time, I'll see you down at the barn.